Transformative Principal, episode 115 with Eric Heiser. Welcome to the Transformative Principal podcast, where we learn how to be an amazing educational leader. I am your host, Jethro Jones. Are you ready to be a transformative principal? I'm looking for about 10 people who are ready to do what it takes to lead with integrity, find balance, and take your school to the next level. If you're looking to improve your leadership in a measurable way, go to transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind to see if you qualify to join a group of like-minded people who are ready to be the best principals in the country. In this episode, we continue our conversation with Eric Heiser, Executive Director of Sturgis Public Charter School in Massachusetts, and we learn about the things that he is doing to still improve even though they are a top-ranked high school. I hope you enjoy this interview, and thank you for listening. It's hiring season all across the country and time to dust off your interview questions. Go to transformativeprincipal.org to download 10 interview questions to find the best teachers. So we've been talking a lot about macro, big picture things. I'd like to bring it down a little bit and talk about some specific things in your school on an individual teacher or student level. One of the things that I've learned about your school as I've done some research is that teachers seem to go above and beyond and making themselves available to students who need extra support to succeed. That sounds like a common theme in your school. Why do they do that? And what is the purpose of them making that extra effort that some other teachers don't have the reputation of doing?
Well, I think when we bring on new faculty, we always spend a full day in new faculty orientation. Part of that is sharing pieces of our culture and our expectations. And as I've said before, a student maximizing their potential is what we're all about. And if that's the heart of what we do, and teachers who join us are chosen because they're into teaching students, not stuff or not content. Of course, they teach content to students, but the emphasis is on teaching students from where they are to getting the most out of them possible. And so students grow and thrive on feedback, and students need extra help. And if students gain the sense that they, by going in to see a teacher before school, after school, at lunchtime, emailing their teacher, whatever, and getting the support, and the teachers are responsive in supporting the students with that extra help beyond the classroom, I think students will continue to thrive. Now, the issue is the teachers, I think, mindset has to be, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help each and every student be as successful as possible. And so right from the get-go, on the first day, faculty walk in, and even in the interviews, we try to tease out people who have or have the potential for that kind of mindset, because this is the kind of school culture, professional culture, student culture that we want. So that's the kind of really the feeling that we want to develop in our school. I don't know. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, you sure did. How do you tease out that mindset in the teachers as you're interviewing them, so that you know what questions do you ask to know that they're going to provide that kind of support to the students?
Well, I have a few questions that I do ask. One of them, probably the most important thing I ask them is, if I took over your class and you had a long distance call down in the office, and I had no clue about what you were teaching to the students. So I decided to ask the students in your current class, whether it's, ninth grade English or pre-calculus or whatever, what words and phrases would the students tell me about you? Now, I don't want you to tell me what you think they would say, but I want you to tell me what they do say about you. And I don't want to know what they would hope you would, or you would hope that they would say, but what they would say about you. Because I'm trying to find out how the teacher sees their role and their connection with the students. Another thing I asked them to tell me about is something that they, in the last 3 or 4 days, that went really well, and more importantly, why did it go really well? And then, of course, I'll ask them the other side of the question of what didn't go as well as you hoped, and if you had to teach it over again, what would you do differently and why? Because the IB, of course, is about what, but more importantly, it's about why, because I think that should guide our thinking. Other questions I asked them to do is tell me about how you ended up choosing your university. What was it that spoke to you? Tell me about your favorite class or 2 classes at university, and why were those your favorite 2, and what were the strategies that the teacher or the professor used to make the class so compelling. I would say sometimes I would ask what the teacher would see themselves connecting with students beyond the classroom, and why that kind of activity really speaks to them. I'm just trying to understand the deep perspective of how a teacher is connected to students and their priorities with students. You know, another thing that, of course, some schools concerned about is student discipline. And in our view, it's not about the consequence and not about what happened, but it's about the opportunity to build a connection with a student after an incident, and develop a relationship and help a student see what they could have done, and let them kind of explain what they could have done to not get themselves into those difficulties again, and building kind of a personal commitment with the student to try to do everything in their power to not have this be a problem again. So it's the kind of the counseling that comes from a disciplinary situation that emphasizes that you really care about students and you want the best for them. And I think if you can emphasize that rather than 20 demerits or 3 days after school, or you're suspended for 4 days or whatever, you know, it shouldn't be about the consequence. It should be about the student growing and trying to develop goals as to how they want to react in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I very strongly believe in that. When we talk about students who have different skill levels, how do you accommodate those various learning tempos among students in a single classroom? What kinds of things do you guys preach to help teachers meet all the needs of all the students in their class?
Well, I think we focus our professional development on basically kind of 3 areas. One would be on differentiating instruction within your class. And so we spend some of our professional development time on that area. We tend to use our special ed staff to lead workshops in helping teachers develop those strategies to help all students be successful, because the strategies that help students with special needs be successful are actually strategies that help all students be successful, in our view.
Absolutely.
And we tend to use our special ed staff to lead some of our trainings. We also have 17 IB examiners on our staff, and they lead departmental meetings, and we do grade norming of papers and things like that. And by having an examiner who actually is sanctioned by the IB to be marking IB exam papers from all over the world, then in their own department, having them say, well, for this paper, this is how I would look at using the rubric to assess the student's support. And so that's very, very helpful for all of our teachers. We didn't start with 17 examiners. We built that up over 10 or 12 years. But the more people that you have understanding in a very deep way the external accountability assessments that you have, I think the better. Some people talk about teaching to the test. Well, with international baccalaureate exams or other assessments in IB, you can't teach to the test in the traditional meaning. You can't memorize things because they're essay oriented, problem solving, and so I think you have to teach the habits of mind to help students be successful, and those habits of mind, in a lot of ways, are transferable across all disciplines: critical reading, literary analysis, problem solving, and so I think we try to, within our school, develop professional experiences for faculty that expose them to unique and different ways of thinking about the IB and implementing IB style strategies. And specific to the IB, we also put an emphasis on helping all faculty integrate the TOK questions, theory of knowledge questions, that are assigned to each discipline, because we have the feeling that if the theory of knowledge questions are integrated into students' thinking, enhances their ability to be quite successful in how they approach their writing for the IB assessments. So our focus is on preparing students and very well for the assessments, but helping our faculty collaborate constantly. We have departmental meetings twice every 3 weeks, and the faculty meeting once every 3 weeks. But the collaboration happens daily, and probably 2 or 3, 4 times a day for each faculty member, because they know that what they're doing is difficult to helping all students be successful with the IB. And so they're looking to beg, borrow, and steal any strategy they can to help each of their students be successful. And they know that they have committed, talented colleagues that have good ideas, and they're going to share their own good ideas with their colleagues. And so, that the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really a powerful way to look at that. Sturgis has been ranked number 1 in Massachusetts and in the top 40 in the country you guys have been good for a long time. How do you continue to improve? Because it doesn't sound like becoming number 1 in the state was a goal or something you strove for. How do you continue to improve even when, everybody wants to be at your school? What do you do to continue to improve?
Well, I think the guiding principle is helping each student maximize their potential, and going out and finding the best faculty we possibly can. We've just recruited 5 people over the past month from a variety of places. One teacher was an American who was teaching in Thailand, and another one traveled throughout the world on a Watson scholarship last year, teaching and performing spoken poetry. And so, we get them from a variety of places, and probably half the people we hire are via Skype. And so, like I said before, recruiting is the most important thing I do, and to find people who are really gifted and talented and passionate, enthusiastic, most importantly, passionate and enthusiastic about their subject, but even more importantly, have the ability to build that passion and enthusiasm in each student in their class, because it's about student learning. So we recruit all over the place, and we try to ensure that when faculty come on board, that they understand what we're trying to accomplish. And we do benefit by, in the way many charter schools do, is that we have 1-year employment agreements and no collective bargaining agreement, no teacher tenure. And if someone who was talented in another place comes and joins us and isn't a match, then no harm, no foul. We'll just say that they weren't a match, and we'll kind of part our ways. We want every teacher to be at the top of their game every year. And so there's a lot of ongoing support and observation and feedback for faculty, and also personal reflection and an annual self-assessment and goal setting process that we've built in for years and years and years. And I think each year we seem to find ways of adding faculty who enhance what we're doing. Not that we don't lose some amazing, outstanding faculty who were examiners who helped us build the school, but if you're really, really careful about who you hire, one thing I tell our faculty is that we're constantly looking for faculty, so please recommend people who you think would be a great fit for our culture and for IB for All. But realize you only recommend no more than 15% of the people you've ever worked with, because we're looking for stars, and we're looking for people who will add to your own personal experience as faculty members, because we all gain so much from collaborating with each other.
That's a pretty interesting number, 15%. Why did you choose that?
I could have said 10 or I could have said 20, because I think is that, a lot of people work with colleagues, but if you say that kind of a lofty percentage, you send the message that, hey, we want stars. We want our kids to experience a star each and every period throughout the day. And so I think that's the message that we want out there. And then that message is also, we expect you to be a star too. And we want you to do everything you possibly can to help your students be as successful as they possibly can.
Yeah, I love that perspective, Eric. That is so cool. I really like that. The last question that I ask everybody is, what is one thing that someone can do starting this week to be a transformative principal?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the vision and clarity of vision. And I heard TED Talk by Simon Sinek, where he talks about, rather than starting with what or how, you really need to start with why. Because why gives you the guiding sense of direction, where you're heading. And you really need to have a strong sense for where you're heading, what you're hoping to accomplish. And students need to be at the center of everything that you decide to do, and supporting them in being as successful as possible. And I would caution here, a lot of people think about student success as a number on an exam. Oh, we had 90% of our students at above the worldwide average on this test or whatever. It's not about a specific score, in my view, because I think if it's different for each student, and if you put the emphasis on becoming all you can be and helping students become all they can be, then, it's not about a number, it's about them. And they're at the heart of what we're trying to accomplish. And so I think that's the message that I would give, is really get clarity of vision and emphasis on student learning and personal growth and reaching potential.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I know that what you have shared today has helped me a lot, and I know it'll help my listeners as well. So thank you so much for taking the time, Eric.
Happy to spend the time, and look forward to listening to other podcasts that you have.
What a great interview with Eric Heiser, the executive director of Sturgis Public Charter School in Hyannis, Massachusetts. He is open to hosting any principals or teachers who would like to come tour their school and learn about the amazing things they do. And thank you for listening to Transformative Principal. Please share this with your friends and other leaders so that we can help others learn how to be a transformative principal. Transformative Principal is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Visit edupodcastnetwork.com to hear more great podcasts that will help you improve your teaching and leading.